Hello and welcome to Thursday Thoughts. Thursday Thoughts? What on earth are they, I hear you ask? Well, my friend Lucy and I meet every week over on Instagram to talk all things personal growth because she is as obsessed with it as I am. And we decided that we might as well put those conversations out as a weekly podcast. So now you can listen to us chat here on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or wherever you listen to your podcasts. And we'll be talking about topics such as spirituality, limiting beliefs, the ego, imposter syndrome, gratitude, meditation, confidence, and so much more. So if you're ready, here we go. So this morning after the storm, I was actually just looking through some of the comments again. Sorry, I don't. Honestly, Lucy, you have caused a storm.
It's actually hilarious. I mean, for anyone who's for anyone who doesn't know what we're talking about, which is, probably people are like, what? But basically, so I have a new book out called Shiny Happy Singles. Quick plug, thanks very much. And long story short, I did a piece for the Telegraph, which came out on, what day did it come out? On Tuesday. And basically, the hate that I've received since Tuesday in the comments of that article has just been absolutely wild and crazy and eye-opening and just horrible. And in fact, it was, I mean, because I know we sort of decided to talk about this, didn't we, just yesterday? We just thought we need to do an extra Monday motivation, so what should we talk about? And this is a good subject, not to talk about, the article itself or whatever, but just more as a kind of talking about how people can be and how to rise above that kind of hate. And also I think it's a really good lesson in, let's just be fucking kind. Like the kind of, like, I'll give you an example. So for anyone who hasn't, doesn't know what we're talking about and hasn't read the piece or the comments. So the amount of vitriol and hate that has come my way has genuinely been incredible. And the kind of things that people say, I've actually been really shocked by, because you don't realize how cruel people can be until, well, you do realize, but when you're actually directly on the receiving end of it, it's genuinely gobsmacking. So for example, a woman this morning, and actually her comment was deleted, but a woman, I'm going to read her name out. Her name is Linda Simpson, jumped on this morning and said frigid and boring. Because basically, to put it in context, the piece talks about me being happily single and childless. And I also talk about the fact that I haven't had sex for 5 years, but how I'm okay with that. And essentially, anyone who knows me and listens to the podcast and listens to you and I will know that my message essentially is to try and help other single women feel better about being single and not having kids. Because, and the irony is, of course, that all that these haters have done is massively reinforce the reasons why I started my podcast in the first place and why I've written this book. So actually, the crazy thing is that they have raised my profile. They've brought more attention to a really important topic. But it's amazing how triggering people find it when a single woman talks about being happily single and happily without kids. And for a woman to jump on and just say frigid and boring out of nowhere.
It is mind blowing. It has literally blown my mind.
Yeah,
how
same.
People can go out of their way to comment on an article of this woman who is saying that how happy she is, living the life in the way that she chooses to live her life. Not only that, is that she's choosing to help other people feel better about their lives and living the way their lives, how they're living. It's not just you saying this is me. It's like, actually, I'm doing something else to help other people. And people then go out of their way to just put horrible, mean, spiteful, disgusting comments. It's just literally like, I mean, there were some of them saying things like, your life is pointless, meaningless, how you must be lying that you're not happy. What were some other ones? It was what a pointless life, a meaningless life, a dreadful existence. I mean, who are these people to make that judgment on your life and to take time to write it? But so anyway, that has happened. But what Lucy honestly is just been so incredible to see, and you know, and we talked about this, is how you responded to that. Because,
Thanks, love.
as you said in yourself, you know, if this had been just a couple of years ago, when you weren't at the place that you are now, this really confident, dynamic, self-assured woman, and of course some of those comments are going to get you because you're human, you know, you're human, but your response to it has been amazing.
Thanks.
And even some of the comments that you wrote, you know, were amazing, but also the
Oh,
fact that we had a conversation about this yesterday, how you said, actually, I'm rising above it, I can see that it's actually really helping my cause, and actually they're doing me a favor, and actually I really pity them. So that's what we want to really talk about this morning, is
yeah.
how do you get to that point where you are able to rise above it, to see it
Yeah.
for what it is, and yeah, for anybody else who's listening, you know, that is where we want to be, because actually, you know, we can see these people, you know, are not obviously very happy people in their own
Yeah.
lives.
I mean, I think that's one thing to say, that I don't think I put it in my comment, but you and I have definitely talked about this before, because obviously you and I have discussed the fact that I've had some hate on Instagram and like trolls on Instagram. And the truth is that anybody who actually goes, like you were saying at the beginning, goes out of their way to go into the comments and post something nasty about somebody else, spiteful, mean, because that's what it is, for no other reason than, you know, they're just being mean. The way that I think of this is like for example, I've had people comment on my Instagram really nasty things about my message and me and all the rest of it, right? And my question always is, why the fuck are you following me? Why are you even like looking at my posts? I mean, I had one, as you know, one really bad troll for a while who I've now blocked, but she or he, whoever it was, would repeatedly come in, and every single time I posted, they would comment on things that I'd said in the podcast. So they were obviously following the podcast really closely, right? Now, if I listen to a podcast that I don't like, all I do is, guess what I do? I get my finger and I go, boop, press stop, and it stops and I move on. So this is what is so mind-blowing, is that these people actually, the irony is that they're sort of having all these opinions and saying all of these things, and actually all they need to do is just move on. If they don't like it, just move on. And so yeah, that's what I just wanted to say. The first thing is that anybody who does this, I don't think that people who make nasty comments in you know, on podcasts or whatever it be, on articles or whatever, I just don't think they're very happy in their own head. Because when you are peaceful in your own head, when you're happy in your own head, you don't feel the need to tear other people down. It's really, really, really simple. You just don't need to tear people down when you feel good about yourself. But in terms of kind of dealing with stuff like this, I mean, what I would say, as you say, you and I talked about this yesterday, I'm so grateful for all the work that I have done on myself. And people may be rolling their eyes at that, but it's true, because what it boils down to is your mindset and the lens through which you are viewing life. And because I've changed the way that I view myself and I view life over the last 5 years, and I've just sort of really dived into all of the kind of inner work stuff, and have really changed the way that I respond to things, react to things. That is why I've been able to genuinely, like, not gonna lie, it fucking hurts when people say, like, some of the comments are, well, they're all personal, so, you know, I'm not a robot. Like, obviously I'm human, so they hurt. But what's been really interesting is how I have been able to rise above it and literally completely detach myself from and read it as if I'm reading an article, as if it's about somebody else. You know what I mean? So completely detach myself from it being personal to me. And that's really, really interesting, because five years ago, this would have completely crushed me, and it would have, I would have been mortally wounded and absolutely devastated. I'd have been in tears, you know what I mean? And I think a lot of people probably would have. So it really is interesting how when you do that work on yourself, what it does is it just enables you to better deal with the shit that life throws at you. You and I talk all the time about meditation. We talk about being aware of our thoughts. And ultimately what it boils down to is self-awareness. And that is what the people in the comments of this piece do not have. They are not awake, they are not aware, they are fucking zombies living in the matrix. They're completely unaware. And so the first thing I think is to have that self-awareness, because that's where it all starts, doesn't it, with just becoming aware of yourself and becoming aware of your thoughts. And that is kind of where it starts. Would you agree?
Yeah, absolutely. It's being aware of the lens through which you're seeing the world.
Yeah.
Because you can only change that when you're aware of how you are viewing it. So
Yeah.
if you're going to be that kind of person who's going to make a really nasty personal comment to someone you don't know, who's actually nothing to do with you, and you're just you're just judging her life from your own personal experience. So that from these people's personal experience, it's obviously the worst possible thing in the world for a single woman to be happy. I mean, it is bonkers. But that's what they truly believe. That is their belief system.
Yeah.
And that is, they've got obviously that is how they are seeing the world. And you have to understand that these people probably have a huge, as we all do, we all have a load of shit which we've all gone through in our lives. And actually, they probably haven't faced any of it. They are still living through that lens with all those stories. But what happens when you have that self-awareness is that you can start to gently start to see some of those old thought patterns, some of those old beliefs, that identity that you might be holding on to. You can suddenly start to see it and begin to unpick it and dismantle it, so that you can actually start to change it, and you can start to rewire your thoughts, rewire your beliefs, and then that moves towards your identity, and then you can sort of shift the way you see everything, and you wake up to see what the world is all about. Those people, when you're that kind of person to make hateful comments, you are living from a place of fear, from a place of so much lack and scarcity, and just where's the love? You can't. And that's what you were so brilliant with the comments, that you would, for most of them, I know you said there were a couple you couldn't help but be a little bit sarcastic about, but for the most part, Lucy, you were replying with love. And that's the thing. If you, with anybody who's saying something mean, actually, if you can just reply with love, with something which isn't coming from the same place as them, then no one really knows what to do with that. And it's actually like, it kind of just takes all the heat out of it, and it just diffuses it. I agree. I think self-awareness is such an important part, but it's being aware of that conditioning, of those stories, of all the wounds, of all the trauma. We've all got it from the past, and can we sort of take almost like a bird's eye view? And yes, sometimes we can do that.
A very quick break to ask you to hit the follow or subscribe button if you haven't already. And if you're enjoying this episode, I'd be super grateful if you could hit those stars and rate it too. Thank you.
On our own, and a lot of the time it's about getting quiet, about noticing, about all those things we say. But sometimes you need help, external help as well, to help you look and just notice. It's almost like having a mirror reflected back at you to say, can you actually see the way you're behaving is not coming from a good place?
Totally. And as well as kind of people coming from a place of fear, I think also what it says to me is that so many people are so angry. People are just so angry, or like about, you know what I mean? This is what amazes me. It's like, oh my God, the rage that comes out from just a woman speaking out about being happily single and childless and being okay without sex. Do you know what I mean? It's just bonkers.
Really?
how much anger that people seem to have. I mean, truly, I was talking, I was actually interviewed for somebody else's podcast yesterday. There's an amazing woman called Nandita Bajaj who works for an organization called Population Balance. So she talks all about, and this is one of the crazy things, right? So one of the things that people are obsessed about in the comments. So several people have accused me of like being the reason why the human race is going to become extinct. It's like, oh my god, what?
It's ridiculous.
It's just hilarious, but it's incredible how this kind of really right-wing view of the world that all women must have kids. You are, somebody
it's
actually
the Telegraph readers.
Sorry.
They are Telegraph readers, let's not forget. But anyway.
Yeah, totally. But somebody said, oh god, I've completely forgotten what they said. I mean, there have just been so many horrible comments.
So
In fact, I'm going to read
your extinction, wasn't it? It was something about you're responsible for the extinction of the human race.
I mean, but it was really interesting that there were several like that, and this. But going back to my interview yesterday, Nandita and I were talking. Obviously, we were talking about it before we recorded the podcast, and we were talking about the fact that the crazy thing is that all of these people are, up in arms in the comments about somebody choosing not to have children, and therefore, like really saying things like, well, it's lucky your parents didn't have the same thoughts as you. Well, blah, 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 blah. And also the other really interesting thing is, but, what will your legacy be? Having children means you have a stake in the future and all of this stuff. And it's just like, oh my God, are you listening to yourself? Listen to this guy, right? So this guy, Tim Gardner. Hi, Tim. So this was his comment on the piece. He said, there is high regard for self, little regard for others. Life is in the moment and there is no thought for the future, brackets, in this world or the next. Okay. Oh, apparently I've got to be scared about the next world. Okay. He says, any suffering, brackets, which is minimal and inferred rather than discussed, is brushed off. So I'm brushing off my suffering. Her isolation is her choice. But if she were to encounter serious hardship, I think she would have to significantly reevaluate all her choices. But listen to this bit. This is hilarious. This is typical of a line of Telegraph articles by barren women promoting barren life choices. They are carefree but joyless, convincing themselves and other barren women that their barrenness is good. How many times can you use the word barren in one sentence? I mean, and that's just one that's come in this morning. Someone else has said, get rid. This has been up 3 days now. It is not news. It's crap. So it's like, well, then again, what are you doing back in the comments? But somehow, if it's that boring, what are you doing back in the comment section? And this is it.
Yeah, go on.
No, so John Williams says, I'm not a good advert for humanity. Thanks, John.
If this were a man, I wonder how they would respond to that. If this article, if it had just been literally from a man's point of view, it just wouldn't be. I mean, honest. It wouldn't
be the same. No. It wouldn't be the same if a guy had written the exact same article.
Yeah.
I really don't think that he would have received this much hate in the comments. Absolutely.
In terms of the comments, what's the percentage of men, in terms of the hateful comments, what's the percentage of men and women?
Well, do you know what? I've been really surprised by how many women have also been hurling hate as well. I mean, it is mainly men. I would say in terms of percentages, it's like in terms of hateful stuff and nice stuff, it's probably about 80-20 or maybe 70-30 at a push. So about 80% of it is hate and about 20% is supportive and nice. But there are, I don't know what percentage of men and women, but there are a lot of women in here as well. It's definitely not just men. There's many, many, many women, which is quite kind of shocking actually do you know what I mean? To hear it from women as well. And yeah, it's just, here's another one. Love of her life, her bonkers cat. Oh dear. Don't be mean about Johnny. Don't you dare.
That will get Lucy angry.
Exactly, that's the one thing. But no, I think it really, I was just thinking about this morning and ultimately, like, I'm really lucky that I can take this and separate myself from it and yes, rise above it and laugh at it and not allow it to really affect me or upset me or make me kind of just want to stop doing what I'm doing. It does the opposite. It just fuels the fire in my belly, and it just makes me want to talk about it more, because what these people have done they have just made this issue even more important and even more essential to talk about it. But I think it's really made me think that, you know, it's you have to, people's comments really affect people. Like there are other people, somebody else might have had this article in the Telegraph and might have responded really, really badly, because again, I could see myself 5 or 10 years ago, this would have sent me into a complete downward spiral, and I think I would have just hidden myself away and never wanted to go out again, you know.
Yeah.
So I think we have to be really careful what we say. We have to be really careful with our words, and ultimately it's not hard to be kind, but just being kind, it's so easy to just be kind and just, like you were saying, you know, just put love out in the world. And actually the reason the world, particularly at the moment with everything that is going on, and God knows what's going to happen, but actually if people went inwards and examined themselves a bit more and worked on becoming peaceful in their own minds, the world would literally be a better place. The reason it's in such a mess is because people are not awake, and people are not self-aware, and people are living from their egos, and they're angry, and they're, you know, it's like them and us and all of that crap. Ultimately, we're all connected. We're all human beings, you know, and it's just, if everybody was a bit kinder and if everybody just had a little bit more self-awareness, the world literally would be a more peaceful place.
It would.
So I just, you know, anyway.
And what you have to, what we have to remember is, you know, when you look at the comments on your Instagram in response to what you've posted about this, it's just so lovely, because there is such an outpouring of support and love, and you have to remember that. And actually, that's where if we were all, more of us were coming from that place of support and love. Yeah, as you say, the world will be so much more peaceful.
Yeah.
And all of this, all of this separation and ego and hate would just melt away.
Yeah.
But it's those people who are just convincing themselves that their way is the right way, the way they see the world is the right way.
Yeah.
That's the issue. And
you know what the other thing is, Polly, just what I think of it is that, you know, reading through these comments, it actually makes me feel so lucky that I don't have to live in their heads, because living in the heads of people who write comments like that, it's not a nice place to live. If you are the kind of person that writes those kind of hateful comments, then your head is a prison, essentially. Your mind is a prison. It's not a nice place to be, you know. It's really not. And also the other thing is that I keep reminding myself of is, actually, we should feel sorry for these people. And I know that sounds really patronizing, but fuck it. But you have to feel sorry for people like this, because God, I'm so glad that I'm not them. You know, I wouldn't want to be, again, I wouldn't want to be living in their heads. So I think actually, you know, people who are calling my life pitiful and all the rest of it, actually, I'm not the one that needs pity. You know, they are the ones that need the pity, not single women, the people that are slagging off single women. And also, one other thing that I just wanted to say, because one of the main sort of narratives that's come out of this, which is, again, just fuels the fire in my belly, and was one of the main reasons that I started my podcast in the first place and wrote this book, is that there were so many comments that implied that I was lying about being happy. It's unbelievable. The lady doth protest too much. That line was used multiple times in the comment section. So many people said the lady doth protest too much. So for anyone listening or watching this, you know, when a single woman says that she is happy, just fucking believe her, because there's nothing worse than people telling you that you are being dishonest about the fact that you're happy. And it's just incredible to me how many people in the comments have said, you know, like there were many, I think I posted one on Instagram, there were lots of people who said things like, yeah, right, Yeah, sure you are. Yeah, you know, you might be convincing yourself, but you're not convincing anyone else. And that is one of the narratives around single women that is why it's so damaging. Because when your life is constantly brought into question, and when you show people, not just tell, but when you are obviously happy and, like, you know, enjoying your life, and still people doubt it, that is, again, it's a reason why I want my book to just fucking explode. I want it to get massive. And I have to thank all of these haters who came in and commented on this piece. The fact that it's still up now, 3 days later in the Telegraph, the fact that it's still getting comments, the fact that the Telegraph put it on the homepage, that's the irony. You know, they're saying all these awful things, but they have helped me to put this message out there even more. So yeah.
So I mean, that's you know, so yeah, that's the other thing. It's a great way to see it. These guys actually are really helping you write your book and get your message out there. And actually, yes, it's just highlighting the need for your work, Lucy, more than anything. And the fact that, honestly, the thing which I couldn't get over is that it's saying, oh, your existence is meaningless. Because actually this is helping, you know, just looking at the comments on your Instagram, how many single child-free women this is actually helping and supporting and helping them to live their lives in a way which feels good, not shameful. So, I mean, well, I mean, do you know what? Well done you, because it takes a lot to put yourself out there, which you absolutely 100% have. And if I had known this was if I had known this was going to happen a few years ago when I first met you, I honestly would have been like, oh my God, because you were even terrified about just putting a post up on Instagram, let alone being on the homepage of the Telegraph.
I know. Well, I mean, and the thing is, I mean, obviously, it's very, you know, it makes me feel sick when I even look at the article, because it's just like, oh my God. And by the way, I didn't write it. It was ghostwritten. Everybody, you know, they're like, I was interviewed by a woman from the Telegraph who subsequently wrote the article. And that's no secret. That's very normal for a writer at the Telegraph to do a first person piece off the back of an interview. So, and of course it was written in a way that was going to get reaction because it is the Telegraph. But I just wanted to kind of add that in, because I didn't write that piece myself.
Yeah, it was
so, you know, it was absolutely was. And there's a part of me that just looks at it and cringes and thinks, and of course I'm thinking, oh my God, who's going to see it? Who's going to read it? This is, oh my God. You know, there is a part of me that wants to hide away. But yes, it's amazing how you know, like you and I were talking about this yesterday. It's like the reason it takes time, I think, to get to where you want to get in life is because actually you need to do that sort of foundational work to get to a place where you can hold shit like this. Because like you say, when you and I first met 3 years ago, the first time I put a video on Instagram, I had a fucking panic attack. Like if you scroll back into the very beginning of my Instagram, I mean, it is cringe, McBloody cringe. It's just like, oh my God, terrifying. Because I didn't even have an Instagram account before I started the podcast, because I was like, I hate social media. But yeah, it definitely has been a very eye-opening few days. And I think, but again, it's what's crazy is that I don't think I even realized how, and yes, admittedly, these are people who read a particular paper. So they're coming from a particular viewpoint, you know, in general. But actually it's really, I didn't even realize actually how negative people thought of single women without kids. Like I didn't realize how deep that goes, and how awful the thoughts are around happily single women. It really is crazy. And so but again, you know, I've said this like 5,000 times, so I'm repeating myself, but this it's so incredibly important for this to be talked about more. And I'm so pleased that this essentially went viral. I mean, I don't know whether would you call it that? I don't know what it means to go viral, but it's got over 1,000 comments, which I think is pretty crazy. But I'm so pleased that it did, because apart from anything else, you know, people have been getting in touch with me. BBC Radio Scotland sent me an email yesterday saying, we'd love to have you on the show. And that was obviously because they'd seen this piece. And also I'm going to be on Jeremy Vine's Radio 2 show for anyone who wants to tune in next Friday, the 4th of July, 1:00. And I'm absolutely going to bring this up with Jeremy and hopefully talk about it a bit more, because it's something that needs to be, you know, I've said this before, the world needs to realise that, not apart from anything else, there are many single childless women in the world who are not living miserable, lonely, desperate lives, who are actually living fabulous lives that mean just as much and are just as valid, just as valuable, just as meaningful, just as fulfilling. I mean, someone actually pointedly asked me in the comments, Lucy, could you tell me exactly how you know, how your life is fulfilled, and, you know, where do you derive purpose and meaning in your life? As if to say, but I don't understand. If you're not in a relationship and you don't have kids, I don't understand how there is meaning and purpose in your life. I mean, that alone, that narrative alone is just like, what?
I know.
What are you talking about?
It's completely nuts. And how many, I mean, that's the thing. And I bet, you know, if you ask them, are you truly happy if you were married and with your, you know, are you truly happy?
Yeah.
And honestly, it's just nuts. I mean, ultimately, you know, what I can see is, in order to come at it from a place of, like, you can, like, you know, not being able to rise above it, you've got to have a real sense of self-value, of self-worth, of self-confidence, all these qualities which give you that really solid foundation, which enables you to then be able to go, actually, do you know what, I'm all right, I'm good, thanks. And whereas if you haven't got that solid foundation, then it's obviously, you know, it's easy to then fall into these not very nice patterns. So I think for anybody listening, that is where, if you know, if you want to get to a place where, you know, Lucy is today, in terms of, and, you know, you can sort of rise above these issues. It's really about, you know, self-reflection. Look at yourself. How is your confidence? How would you react in a situation like this? And if you feel like you'd be quite wobbly, then really it's time to start just noticing your thoughts, how you value yourself, what's your own self-worth like, and all of those things can be worked on, and all of those things, you know, as you and I both know, can be improved, and so that you can get to a place where you can rise above it.
And also, one other thing just to add, because I think this is so key, is, you know, ask yourself, like, or realize, I think, because all of us, without exception, care far too much about the opinions of other people, far too much. And this is part of the problem. And this is why, you know, we hold ourselves back. I held myself back for decades of my life, not doing the things that I really wanted to be doing, not putting myself out there, because I was so shit scared of what other people were going to think, particularly people who've known me since I was young, people I was at school with, all of that. You know, we all have it. And I think you know, it's really interesting when you start to think about this, you realize how so much of what you do or you don't do in life comes down to the fear of what other people are going to think. And actually, you know, that's why there's no way I would have had a piece about me like this in a paper 10 years ago. There's just absolutely no way in hell I would have. There's just no way. But one way that I deal with this, and even since starting a podcast, you know, I've talked about this many times. Both of us have talked about the fear of what other people think, because it does hold us all back. It holds every single one of us back, without a doubt. I don't think there is one person on this planet who genuinely doesn't give a shit what anyone thinks. Like, you know, you start caring less as you get older, and maybe you get better at just doing the damn thing anyway. I've got better at doing it anyway, but I don't know if it is possible for a human being to actually not give a shit what anybody thinks. I think if you're like that, then you're bloody lucky. But this sounds a bit ridiculous, but one thing that I always think, and I remind myself of this, and I reminded myself of this on Tuesday when I knew this piece was going out, which is, you know what? We're all gonna be fucking dead in 100 years. Who gives a shit? Like, who cares? Honestly, I say that to myself frequently when I do a podcast. I think, oh God, what the hell was I on about? Or I'm embarrassed about something I said in an interview, or when I'm embarrassed about, I've cringed at so many reels I've done on Instagram. And actually what I say to myself is, we'll all be bloody dead and gone in 50 to 100 years, so it doesn't bloody matter. And are you going to allow yourself to hold yourself back now because of the fear of what other people think, when none of us are going to be here in 100 years? Why do we care? Why are we allowing the opinions of others to stop us from living the lives that we know that we're capable of? And this is something I'm even more passionate about than in a way than the sort of whole single childless thing. It's just like, oh my God, we've got to stop worrying about what people think.
It's a muscle, isn't it? Because we know it. Like, I'm not going to care what other people think, but then it always comes, like, oh God, what do I want to post that? Do I want to say that?
Yeah.
It's a muscle. You've just got to press send, do the thing anyway. And then how I manage it is I then just let it go. I try not to think about it. I'm just like, right, done that now, and I'm going to move on to the next thing.
Totally.
And although it still kind of makes my stomach churn, and I'm a bit like, oh, I'm just like, no, it's done.
Exactly.
That's it. Let's move on.
Totally. And just one thing before we wrap up, Polly, because this is so key, talking about going back to the whole kind of mindset thing. It's so much about where life is so much about where we're placing our attention, where we're placing our focus. And all of those people in the frigging comments, they are placing their attention on the wrong damn things. No doubt they're the kind of people who spend 24/7 watching the freaking news and just getting riled up about absolutely everything. Where we place our attention, our focus is so key. And when that article went out on Tuesday, my biggest fear is, oh my God, all of my ex-boyfriends, who's going to see this? Which of my exes are going to see this? Cringe, humiliating, so embarrassing, just, oh my God. But like you say, I then had to go, I've had that thought now, put it over there and look this way, shine the spotlight on something else, focus the attention on something else, because that's what we have to do. That is what we have to do. And also, it's so much about the kind of, when it comes to content, like, we have to be so mindful about what we're allowing into our brains. And anyone in the comment section of this piece, like, they are allowing the wrong shit into their brains. They're focusing on the wrong stuff, feeding their minds on the wrong stuff that's just making them angry and just not very nice. So sorry, I don't think this conversation went where we intended it to go. I've just been rambling on about God knows what.
I mean, it's good. I think it's good. It's good to talk about these things because it's it's life. I'm shocked by the comments that you received. I'm just shocked by the hate. But I sadly don't think it's unusual. But I just haven't seen it like that. And especially someone who I know. I know exactly what your intentions are. It's still so bloody shocking. So
totally. Can I just say, by the way, I'm tempted to stay on for 2 more minutes because we don't have to, but because obviously I've got this article up because the comments up because we've been talking about it. Oh, here, So I was just going to say, I saw that someone was typing. Alan Walker, hi Alan, has just jumped in and gone, got it. She's flogging a book. How fulfilling.
Oh my God.
Can I just say the number of people who've said, oh, you're just trying to sell a book. It's like, do you guys understand the concept of publicity? When you write a book, you talk about it. That's what you do. So this kind of, this people are so sort of irked by someone else is typing, but hey, people are so irked by the fact that I'm selling a book, like I'm trying to sort of pretend that I'm not selling a book. That's why I've got a piece in the Telegraph at all. But what this is what you do when you're trying to promote something. You have to talk about it because otherwise no one's going to buy it. And you want people to buy it, especially we want people to buy this book. Please, everybody, buy this book.
Yes, buy the book. Honestly, they're just doing you another favour. The more people who comment, the bigger favour they're doing. I mean, it's just ridiculous, and it's crazy that it's still going. These comments are still going.
I know it is wild. Anyway, thanks for listening, watching. Anyone who's listened to me rambling on for the last 40 minutes.
And go and get Lucy's book. And
thanks, love.
Yeah.
We'll be back on Monday.
But the most important thing is that you're okay, that you're managing it really bloody brilliantly. And yeah, I think that's important for everyone.
Thanks, love.
Like, well done.
Well, we'll be back on Monday for our usual Monday motivation. Who knows what we'll be talking about then? We never know until about half an hour before. Yeah. So we'll be back on Monday.
Yeah. All right, love.
All right, love. I'll see you later. Lots of love. Bye. Bye. Bye.